Yo, what's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Series 12 video, and it is the first of another month, and you know what that means. That means we've got 5 more new rental codes to try out and get you right back into MasterBall Tier, and these are some pretty unique ones, and they're a little bit different than some of my other ones. So let's see what we got in store for you. And again, a lot of this was done during the team building videos that we had back in May. We just improved them a little bit or touched them a little bit, but there is one team that you probably wouldn't have expect to see on here. So let's see if that is in fact our first team. So let's just go ahead and get straight into the rental code. With the first rental in the June 2022 list from me, we have our Lunala squad, and I bet you didn't see this one coming. So Lunala, this exact 6 is the same 6 that we actually built back in February in our Lunala team building video, but we never put out a rental for it. I was waiting to see how Lunala would progress in the meta and then release that rental at its highest point or at its highest peak when I felt it was more appropriate, because I saw that this kind of archetype could do well, but it just wasn't fully explored or developed at the time, you know, in the earlier part of the meta. But now that we've seen a recent rise in Lunala Groudon, I felt now is the perfect time to get that Lunala team out there and have you guys try it as well. So this is a pretty standard 6 that we came up with. The Thundurus in the Charizard slot, just because of the threat of Life Orb Yveltal, right? That's a huge threat now, so the Thundurus to me is very, very necessary. And then, you know, pretty standard rest of the 5. Again, Lunala has Trick Room with Meteor Beam, great against Incineroar stuff. Groudon and Venusaur, we know the Sun combo, and then to support, we have the Incineroar, you know, Intimidate, Fake Out support, and then Grimmsnarl, again with screens. So, you know, this way your Lunala and Groudon can be bulky behind those screens, as well as your Venusaur, and this way you can deal a bunch of damage while not taking so much damage in return. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Pokepaste and see how we touched up our EVs. Alright, so here's our EV spreads for our Lunala Groudon squad, and from the team building video, we just made a couple of minor tweaks, more for the Lunala. We made it a couple of points slower. I think we were at like 125 speed in the team building video. We dropped it a couple of points just to put a little bit more in the bulk, just to survive the Life Orb Yveltal attack, right? Because Life Orb Yveltal can potentially just one-shot this thing, so we added a little bit more bulk just to be able to survive that hit. Incineroar is a pretty standard Incineroar. We hit the second bump in the Careful Nature, and the rest just gets dumped into pretty much HP, 1 point in attack, and then a little bit in defense just to survive the Zacian close combat after Intimidate, which isn't really relevant right now, but it's more like leftover EVs in this regard, because you already have like a little bit of speed just to outspeed some Incineroars, and then the leftover bulk is very conveniently for Zacian as well. Groudon here, so we made our Groudon pretty slow, just 20 speed, but again, you know, we want that thing to thrive in Trick Room, so very nice Groudon spread here. And then 156 is the bump with the Adamant Nature, and again, I still love Citrus Berry with Swords Dance and Protect on our Groudon. Again, a lot of players are going to expect that you're Assault Vest with no Protect, but then you just whip out the Swords Dance and then potentially Protect on the turn, and then that could turn the tide of a game, especially if they don't expect it, right? Thundurus, you know, Life Orb set, a very aggressive Thundurus set with Wild Charge flying, Brick Break to break opposing screens, and then you have, you know, Max Airstream, very strong, can help Lunala and Groudon outspeed stuff, and then, you know, Max Knuckle just to help Groudon and your own Thundurus deal extra damage. So this way you discourage those Incineroars that want to pivot against, you know, Groudon and even Lunala, because Incineroar threatens that as well. Same thing with Landers, you know, because Landers is always an enemy of Sun, and I think Thundurus can just really pin down that slot. And then the Grimmsnarl spread here, I know you can't quite see it, but there is 116 special defense and 12 speed, just a little bit of speed to outspeed those other Grimmsnarls. And this spread has been the same consistent Grimmsnarl that we've been using for about 90% of the format. It's meant to take the Zacian Adamant Behemoth Blade with Reflect Up and Incineroar Intimidate switch in, right? Now, our Venusaur is very bulky, and it has a certain speed tier, 212 investment. That'll outspeed base 100s even with a +1 in the sun, right? So let me rephrase that. That sounded a little confusing. So if your Venusaur is in the sun, you will still outspeed base 100s even if they have a +1 airstream boost. So stuff like Charizard or Zapdos, if they're already +1, you still outspeed it, right? And the bulk with the screens, you're able to take those Landers, Airstreams, and then get the Policy proc, and then now you become +2, right? So I always like a very bulky Venusaur with Weakness Policy behind screens. It can really catch your opponent off guard, and it's hard to kill. So there's that. And you know, in the best of 3, when they see your Weakness Policy in Venusaur, they're a little bit hesitant to try and go for a super effective attack in it. And then your Venusaur just kind of sits there, and then eventually you just sleep power everything, and then you know you got the upper hand. So yeah, and then just one last thing with the Lunala spread. So you are at the bump with 108 special attack, but again with an even number, just to get a better bang for your buck with your +1 power or boost. All right, so that's our Lunala squad. Let's go ahead and go into the next rental. Coming up with rental number 2 is our Zacian Yveltal remake. So we previously made a Zacian Yveltal team, I believe back in March, but we reworked it a little bit, and this is a bit of a different build than we had before. So with this type of build, again, we're going with Life Orb Yveltal rather than the Landorus, and then the Regieleki is a supportive set with Screech this time. And the whole cool thing about Screech is with Foul Play, you can just pretty much one-shot a lot of things. It's so strong. And then don't forget, when you Dynamax Yveltal, the Foul Play becomes a physical Max Darkness. So now if you click Screech with the physical Max Darkness, now you're just one-shotting a lot of the meta. So very strong combination here. And again, Screech also works with Landorus and even Zacian as well. And then the rest of the team, you know, Incineroar, just because Incineroar is Incineroar. And then the Amoonguss gives you a Trick Room matchup while also being redirection support for your Landorus to set up that Swords Dance play, right? And then of course Zacian is your main restricted. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the EV spreads. Alright, so here's our EV spreads for our Zacian Yveltal team. Now, I know you can't quite see it because my picture is cutting off Incineroar, but it's pretty much the same Incineroar that we had in the other one. Same EV spread. Zacian, this is also the same Zacian that we've used throughout the format. It's meant to outspeed Regieleki with a +1 Airstream or a -1 thanks to Electro, right? The Landorus has a tiny bit of bulk just to optimize against the Hailstorm chip damage. But you also have a nice bit of bulk just so that you can not get one-shot by a Zacian Behemoth Blade. So that's always very nice. The Amoonguss is pretty much just optimized here for Regenerator Recovery. You hit the bump in the defensive nature, and then you're just extra slow just to be, you know, the fastest thing in Trick Room, right? The Yveltal, same thing. It's a relatively standard set. Max Speed Timid. So this way, if you're up against another Yveltal, at the very least, it's a speed tie. But then you also have Life Orb optimization, and then the rest just gets dumped into special attack. Really nice kind of team here. It's quite strong. I think it's maybe my favorite rental of the 5, I have to say. So definitely give this one a go. And again, you know, make sure you keep spamming that Screech and Foul Play. It's so fun. Okay, rental code number 3. This is a bit of a unique one. This is a dual weather team, something that we haven't quite seen in the earlier parts of the format, but now has started to pop up a little bit more as the Series 12 meta has progressed. And you know, so dual weather is always a little tricky because, you know, you just don't know which type of mode your opponent's going to bring. It could be either of the two, whether it's the sun or the rain mode, and the Venusaur benefits from either one, right? Because with the Tornadus here, you know, you're able to go for Tailwind, which is the same concept as getting a speed boost from the sun, in this case the Torkoal, right? So you can always go Venusaur Torkoal with Zacian and Kyogre in the back, you know, just for just to set the tone early with your G-Max moves, and then Kyogre and Zacian just clean up. The Tornadus is Life Orb this time, so if you feel like, you know, the Incineroars or Rillaboos are just going to go for your fake outs on the Tornadus, you can potentially surprise them. Just Dynamax, go for Airstream, and now Kyogre has a speed boost that way. Same thing with Zacian, by the way, so that's always very nice. Heat Wave, so again, with the sun, Tornadus does extra damage, so you could also go for combos like that. But otherwise, you know, you can just click Tailwind, click the Water Spot button, watch things die. We are a Mystic Water Kyogre, so You know, good luck to our opponents switching into that. And then, you know, Incineroar this time is the goggles set, so this is just for the sleep shenanigans against, you know, opposing Venusaurs or opposing Amoonguses. I think safety goggles is a little bit better here than Shuka Berry, just because we have quite enough answers for Groudon here. And what's cool about this Torkoal set is, again, it's not a Trick Room Eruption high damage set, it's more of a pivoting support Torkoal. Alright, it's meant to really just give Venusaur the sun and then cripple other things like the Calyrex Ice Rider or even like Landorus. You know, if you think you're going for max Quakes or max Airstreams, you click Burning Jealousy and now everything's burned and then Torkoal has done its job. And then against opposing Incineroars, you just body press them, and then you can also support with potential Yawn shenanigans, right? So that's always really, really nice to get with Torkoal if you just spam Yawn. Same concept as like Gashodon or Blastoise. So, and then Zacian, of course, is Zacian, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the EV spreads. Alright, and here's our EV spreads for the dual weather team. So again, the Incineroar, pretty much same consistent Incineroar. The Kyogre, a little bit different than the other kind of Kyogres we've been using. So we pretty much went max speed modest, but then adjusted the bulk just a tiny bit where we put him in the defense a little bit rather than the HP. But again, it's a pretty standard modest Kyogre. Again, the Zacian spread is still the same Zacian spread. You outspeed Eneleki with a +1 Airstream. And yeah, that's really all there is to say about the Zacian. It's the same consistent one. I've never had a problem with it in any format, really. It's a pretty standard Zacian spread. Alright, the Tornadus is just a Life Orb optimized with the rest going into special attack. Max speed, obviously. The Venusaur, this is our Cobra Berry Venusaur set, so a little bit different than our Weakness Posse set. You're a little bit slower, but because you don't have the Weakness Posse to give you that damage boost, we went to the third bump in the Modest Nature just so that we can, you know, at least look like we do respectable damage, but still having a good amount of bulk in the HP, just optimized for potential Hailstorm or Sand Chip. And again, yeah, the Cobra Berry will help us survive that Airstream from like an opposing Landorus, for example, right? And you still have the typical Venusaur set with like Sleep Powder stuff. The Torkoal is pretty much, you know, relatively optimized. Again, Citrus Berry Recovery just for 244 HP. You know, I think it's at that 176 mark. And then you hit the bump in the defensive nature, and then the rest just gets dumped into special defense. So, you know, you want a little bit of defense here, so this way your body press does pretty good damage. So that's the whole idea there. And yeah, so it's a really cool team. I've seen it played quite a bit from other players, so it's a nice concept. We'll showcase it on the ladder, and you get to give it a try too now. So moving on to the next rental. This one. So this is our fourth rental. This is our Solgaleo Groudon team. So this 6 was actually a little bit more inspired by 3 other players that used this in one of the other regionals previously. Thanks and shout out to Pato, Yuri, and Danielle for using that 6, and then we figured why don't we use that 6 too in our version. So I think with those 3, they had Brutal Swing on their Tornadus to activate the policy on Solgaleo, in addition with Suicune Bulldoze, but I wanted to change it up just a little bit, and I went for Leer instead, just so that, you know, Solgaleo still gets to deal extra damage, you know, with the Leer support, which is basically a weakness policy thing. But then I also wanted to enable the Groudon a little bit too, right? So there's some synergy there with the Groudon. So if you click Leer, then Groudon has nice amount of damage with its Precipice Blades, right? And our Venusaur is a Life Orb set this time, so you get to see all of our EV spreads for our Venusaur. And again, it's an aggressive Dynamax option on this kind of team. And the Incineroar, you know, same Incineroar with the Shuka Berry back again this time. And the Suicune, you know, just with leftover recoveries and a bunch of support moves. Tailwind is really, really nice for this team, especially, you know, for Venusaur and Groudon. And then you have Snarl for that annoying Calyrex Shadow Rider, or just annoying special attackers in general. Bulldoze, extra speed control for the team. Very good with Solgaleo activating the policy. And then, you know, just Ice Beam for an opposing Landorus, right? Because this team does not like Landorus either. So, really cool team. Let's take a look at the spreads that we came up with. Alright, so this is our EV spreads for our Solgaleo Groudon squad. So again, the whole idea with this is there's 2 modes to the team. You know, there's always Tailwind mode with Suicune, and then there's Trick Room mode on Solgaleo, which is really, really helpful in the end game. Our Groudon spread is the same spread as the other Groudon team. Again, meant to be really, really slow. Same with Solgaleo. You don't have a lot of speed investment in this Solgaleo, but the whole point is that we underspeed our Suicune, or aka our Suicune outspeeds our Solgaleo by at least 1 point. So this way our Bulldoze goes first, and then the policy gets activated, and then the Solgaleo can just Dynamax and smash, right? You hit the attack bump in the adamant nature of Solgaleo, and then a bunch of HP to optimize the chip damage that you would get from G-Max moves, and then the rest just gets dumped into special defense and a little bit of defense. So the special defense lets you live the Calyrex, Shadow Rider stuff, and sometimes even Yveltal as well. So really cool Solgaleo spread, very slow, very bulky, high damage, which is exactly what you want from your Solgaleo. Venusaur, so same Venusaur tier speed that we had in the weakness policy set, meant to outspeed base 100s with a +1 airstream boost, way if you're in the sun. But then from here we went to the second EV buff nature in the special attack, and then a little bit of HP just to optimize the Life Orb chip, and then the rest just gets dumped into leftover defense and special defense, right? Thundurus, it's a sash set, it's 252, 252, nothing really else you need to say about it. The Suicune, a calm nature, very bulky, meant to live Regieleki, electric moves, assuming it's not Thunder. Thunder would be really bad if it's a Regieleki Life Orb set. But other than that, very bulky Suicune. I like it a lot, and again, we mentioned it before, the Incineroar spread is the same Incineroar spread that we've been using for quite a while. Again, this is just for ladder, it's not like a super tryhard tournament. So, really cool team. Give it a try. Some cool leads would be like, Incineroar, Suicune, click Tailwind, Parting Shot into the Solgaleo, and now Solgaleo is in position to get Bulldoze, get the policy going, and now it's super fast, and then you can just one-shot everything, and then have Groudon and Venusaur clean up later on if you need to. Alright, so let's take a look at the final rental. Okay, so the final rental that we're putting out for the beginning of June is our Ghost Fish team, as I like to call it. So this is our Calyrex Kyogre squad, which we've done before on the channel, but we're doing it a little bit differently this time. So we're going super HO with this kind of squad, but the Calyrex has an answer for those Trick Room teams, and it is in the form of Imprisoned Trick Room, right? So a supportive Calyrex set, but also a very high damaging Calyrex set, of course, because of Astro Barrage. Regieleki fits on this kind of team just because, if you lead Electro Web plus Calyrex, you chip a lot with the Electro Web already, and then Astro Barrage is just able to pick up with whatever's left, and because, your Life Orb with Regieleki, you're doing so much damage. Regieleki can also be a Dynamax option, and just click Max Lightning into a lot of things, and then just have Ogre and Calyrex clean up in the back. This is a modest Regieleki, by the way, and you'll take a look at the spreads in a second. Tornadus, a pretty standard set. Because we have the Sash on the Calyrex, we're putting the Mental Herb on it, so this way we don't get taunted. Icy Wind, extra speed control along with Tailwind, and of course, 100% accurate Hurricanes in the Kyogre Rain is always very much appreciated. Alright, our Ogre spread is pretty much the same as the other one, but let's look at the Kartana, which is an interesting pick here. We haven't used Kartana yet. We've had it on like maybe 1 or 2 teams, but now we get to showcase it again on this kind of team. Kartana really, really likes the rain, so that's why it's here. It's a strong grass type, really good against Gastrodons that maybe want to come against the Kyogre. Very good against Blastoise, and just being very bulky on the physical side of things is always very, very good. And then combos well with Regieleki. You chip a lot of damage with the speed control, and then Kartana Dynamax can just steamroll and pick up a bunch of KOs, and then just maybe even you don't even need the Calyrex or the Ogre at that point, right? And then Incineroar on this team is just meant to do Incineroar things. Just helps out in Trick Room in general a little bit more. Helps out with the other Calyrex Shadow Rider matchup, or even Ice Rider as well. Same thing with Zacian. So let's take a look at the spreads here. Alright, so looking at this, again, same Incineroar spread as always. The Tornadus, 252, 252, nothing really else needs to be said there. The Kartana bulk here with 20 HP and 52 defense. That's meant to survive an Incineroar Flare Blitz in the rain, which I think is important. So it'll do a bunch of damage to itself, and then you can just KO it with a Sacred Sword. So that's always very much appreciated. The Regieleki modest set, this is meant to outspeed those base 100s that go for that +1 airstream boost. So if a Charizard or Zapdos, they go for +1, they hit 250, I believe. and this Regieleki is meant to outspeed that at the very least, so that's always cool. And then, you know, because you have a Tornadus on your team, you can go slower Regieleki modest build, right? And I built a bulkier Regieleki set in the past, but I felt this time I'll just make it a little bit faster with just some physical bulk, but still deal a good amount of damage with the modest nature 156 investment, which is the second bump in its nature, right? And then the Calyrex, again, you're a sash set, nothing else you need with the 252, 252, and the Kyogre spread, as we mentioned, is the same thing as the other Kyogre. It's also meant to survive a Zacian play rough, I believe, right? Yeah, it is. So that's always pretty cool. So a very HO aggro kind of team. So definitely give this one a go, especially if like you need something quick and easy to pilot. This is probably the one I recommend. Not too much thinking for this one, but you know, you still have to play well, right? Otherwise, you know, against those slower Trick Room teams, they can overwhelm you. So definitely consider, you know, playing that matchup a little bit carefully. But again, still lots of combos you can do. So let's get you out of here with one last recap. Alright, so those are all 5-hour rentals, so hopefully you give them a go. Let me know which one you try, let me know which one is your favorite. And again, if you're interested in building teams with me or getting your team ready for a tournament or a regional, definitely take a look at our coaching that we've done on the channel. We've had a lot of coaching sessions over the last couple months, so you know, thanks to all, you know, hopefully I can help you guys out a little bit. But again, Tier 3 is the team building perk to the channel, where you and I get to sit down in a Discord call and we build a team from scratch. I teach you how to do EVs, I teach you how to do optimization, so definitely look into that. Otherwise, if you just need like a quick fix or, you know, a little bit more of a touch-up, that'll be a Tier 2 sub to the channel where you submit a team that you already built yourself. I touch it up and fix it up a little bit based on what I think is best in the meta right now, and then I make a video about it, and then I send the team back to you, and everyone's happy, right? So that's a Tier 2 sub to the channel. So again, definitely look into it. It's a link in the description below. And don't forget to join the Discord. You know, people, when they join the Discord, they're always surprised that I had one. We've been having one for almost a year now, so definitely join that if you haven't done so already. All right, so we'll be back with the next video. We're gonna test out a lot of these squads. We're back in Great Ball Tier, so you know, some exciting battles await. All right, peace out, guys. Have a good one.